we started doing family walks together, and then from there it just kind of took off. I was like 289 when I first met. Kind of we were together, and I was like, man, I got to get back in shape, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I want to go to the gym too. And we had another buddy that we would go to, and it's the three of us at 4 a.m. for,
4 a.m.
gosh, like a
I
year.
did 4 a.m. for 8 years.
8 years?
No. Was it 2020? So 4 years,
4
5
years.
years.
What changed? You still do 4 a.m. or?
No. I wasn't sleeping much at all. I mean, I'd go to bed at like 10, 11, wake up at 4, go to the gym, work 10-hour shifts, and come home. My wife's like, you're not sleeping. You're always tired. You're negative. And I'm like, well, let's go at night. She's like, all right, I guess we'll change and start going at night together. Okay. And so we just started going at night so I could sleep more. Okay. That's been nice. And then I switched jobs not long ago, so I get a little more sleep even.
I love that.
So I'm like, this is awesome.
I feel you on that. I had a stretch there where I was getting maybe 1-2 hours of sleep.
I was going to say, I heard that.
Yeah.
And I just, my mind's always going. I'm like in work mode. And so I got to be doing something. If I'm not moving, getting something done, or out helping people or connecting, I feel like I'm just wasting time.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to sit still. And in fact, my buddy, we're in Arizona and we're driving. He's like, hey, check, what's your screen time at? And mine was like 13 hours a day.
Dang.
And I was like, well, keep in mind, I work from my phone. I'm like, we just flew over here. I'm watching a movie on my phone and everything, trying to make every excuse. But it was like learning to separate and create some time for myself.
Yeah.
And still be able to focus on work and relationships with other people. And so I know that struggle.
Yeah, it's rough.
You used to work out though. It sounds obviously.
Yeah.
What time do you do now?
Depends on work meetings.
Oh, okay.
But I'll usually do cardio at one point during the day and then a workout the other part during the day. And for me, it's always like my message is I take care of myself. So when I see my clients, they know I'm going to take care of them.
Yeah.
I let it just be a message to them. But also the gym's like my space to think, to get away and everything. It's become a little bit harder now. The more you're on social media, the more you got people wanting to talk to you like every few minutes at the gym. And I don't want to be rude, so you create time for them, but it just elongs every single workout.
It takes your 45-minute workout to an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking.
I had one day a guy recognized me before I even got into the gym. I spent 30 minutes outside talking to him. Then I got inside and I was like, well, my pre-workout's worn out. But I'm like, it's fun. And as you both know, content can be so hard. Just sitting in front of a camera, constantly talking. And for me, whenever I meet someone who's seen a podcast or a video or something, it's like it clicks in my head, like, keep going. It's doing something. It's reaching somebody rather than nothing.
I had that feeling yesterday. I was talking to my barber who we had on last week, and he was talking about some of the episodes he'd listened to, and I was like, oh, all right. It was cool that you connected and like fully committed to listening to all these and brought up key points in each one, and I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I see you. I can see you're listening.
Yeah.
And I think I heard you say, like, even if one person watches one video and we've talked about this, especially with like when he talked to his depression and suicide stuff, and I was like, it's so important because even if one person hears that message
then
and says,
you save one person's life.
That's like the impact that you can have is exponential with social media. Yeah. But yeah, definitely it has its pros and cons, right? I mean, yeah, it definitely can weigh on you. At least for me, it's pretty.
And you guys might see this, but the more you do podcasts and connect with people and people listen, the more that your whole life becomes a stage. Because wherever you go, if there's someone who's seen you, listened to you, they expect you to be a certain way. Yeah. And 2 weeks ago, I'm at the airport. I'm going on a red eye, so I'm tired already. Going through security, and I'm just going through and a lady's like, grabs my arm, are you Jeff? And I'm like, yes. I follow you on social media. I'm like, thanks. We're chatting. But her husband says super loud, it's like meeting a celebrity. Every eye in the line starts looking at me, and I'm like,
you're like, no.
I'm not a celebrity. You guys just leave me alone. I just want to sleep on the plane. But it's fun to know that you're reaching people. Mm-hmm. But even more, I love the conversations because now I know, what do people want to hear? What do they want me to talk about? What do they want me to share? What is it that reaches them? And it helps also, I'm going to have a conversation with these people next because I know that they can reach certain people that are looking for that message.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that you. I think you interviewed Keaton.
Yeah.
How'd you make that connection?
So I've known him for a few years. Good friend of mine. I do public relations for influencers, those on social media, and so one of the things I do is I help to have people speak at events. And so he had his Limitless Arena the past 2 years, and I had a few clients. I'm like, hey, they would be great for your stage, and so just reached out to his assistant, got in a conversation with her, and just met him backstage, talked to him. I went up to an event at his house, and at first I was like, I'm going to message him, see if I can get free. It was like $1,500 for a dinner at his house. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I wonder if I could get free tickets. But then I reached out to him and I said, look, here's the deal. I want to come. I'm willing to pay for the ticket, but I also want to be able to pour into you and bring more people here. And so because I brought some people, I got a free invite and went to that. And so just relationship through there. And then the fun thing has been, I asked him, hey, can I interview on my podcast? And so he's like, tell my assistant. So as long as I told her, he gave the green light. She had no choice but to schedule it, move things around. And so I went to him rather than, hey, can you meet me at a studio? And so because I went there, he just created time in his schedule, and that was a fun.
That's cool, man.
Fun podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because you talked about. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that very first Limitless event kind of is what sparked all of this.
Okay.
We were at the first one.
Okay. Yeah, it was a fun. It's interesting. The past two that he did, I didn't listen to a single speaker because I was always backstage listening to the conversations the speakers were having with each other, with their families, because there were so many golden nuggets that they were dropping in those conversations. I was like, I just want to be a fly on the wall and just listen and see and look how they prepare to go on stage.
Honestly, I thought that at the first one because there was quite a few. Like I went into it with no intention. I just wanted to hear a few of the guys speak. So I'm like, I've looked up to him for a while. So I'm like, I just want to hear him speak. But after I was like, man, there's a lot of information. I'd love to just be backstage listening to what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun, it's a different world. It's hard because you see these people that you follow, that you idolize, and you want to take pictures with them, take a selfie. But in your mind, it's like, do I want to become a friend or do I want to become a fan? And the hard thing is once you grab a selfie, you become a fan. And in their minds, you're a whole different category versus, hey, I'm just having a conversation about how's your kids, how are you in life and stuff. And so that was, I guess, a learning experience for me because, it's David Goggins. Of course, you want to get a selfie with him. But at the same time, I'm like, I just want to conversate with the man and, learn what I can. And now when I go to the gym, you guys are going to call me crazy, but I'll listen to Disney music while I'm throwing around heavy weights because I'm like, it's not the music that's motivating me. So I don't need a song to help me push this weight. I'm here for a reason. I have a goal and why I'm at the gym. And so I'm like, I want to try any song in the world. So I'll pick The Little Mermaid. And we'll throw around, max bench, max squat, whatever it is. And my friends think it's weird, but I'm like, it works for me.
I don't think it's weird. I think it just shows that it's like you said, you're not using anything other than yourself for motivation.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what everybody says, right? You can't, external factors into motivation ain't going to really get you too far.
Exactly.
Some of those songs, though, will bring you back to your kids or to a moment, and that's going to motivate you more than more than a heavy metal song ever will.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because every song that I listen to, I feel like it reminds me of a trip I went on, an experience I had. Like every song, and some of the memories suck, but I'm like, I still just go through the songs.
But it's an emotion to get you to go farther, though.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, that sucked, but now I'm better because of it. I took the lesson from it. And now I'm
this
farther.
Girl cheated on me to this song.
Yeah.
Freaking bump it in the gym and let's throw around
let's
some
do
weight.
it.
Yeah. It gets you that motivation to go harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100%. I've listened to some off the wall stuff throughout going to the gym. I'm like, throw on like Miley Cyrus or something, like some little, in their teenage years. And I'm like, no, it's more. I can understand it or whatever. I just go to whatever.
No, I
don't need the music. It's nice to have, but
I love that. I love that.
We rise to the top, can't stop this flow. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready, let's go. In the heart of the jungle, we're ready.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Roundtable here with Ben, and we got our guest Jeffrey. Do you prefer Jeff or Jeffrey?
Either one's fine. Jeff is fine.
All right,
it's easier to say.
I was gonna say it, but I was like, I don't know what we didn't talk about that beforehand.
No, you're good.
So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, we conversated a little before, but I mean, give us a little bit of backstory and kind of where you're at.
Yeah, so I am. It's interesting. I am 32 years old, but I feel like I'm 60 something. I was born in Maryland, adopted to Idaho. I've lived in Africa for 7 years of my life, 2 in Zimbabwe, 2 in Ghana, and 3 in South Africa. I've been in Utah since 2014. Graduated from Utah Valley University in public relations and marketing. That's the field that I work in now. I've gone everything from coaching high school football to help running adoption camps to running a gym for several years for athletes. And so right now I get to work and help people tell their message or their brand and help take it to the world. And so for me, it's a fun career. It's high paced, but I love it.
What made you move into the route of public relations, or was there a passion behind it? Is it something that you just fell into?
I initially went to school for computer science.
Okay.
I went on an LDS mission and came back, and I was like, this doesn't interest me. It's not fun. I met a professor named Phil Gordon, who's in Chicago now, but I took one of his classes and I had a great time. And he's like, hey, I want you to meet someone. And he just started connecting me to people, which led to more connections. And so I started taking more of his classes, and he's like, you should think about going into PR. And I did, not necessarily knowing what it was. And, you go through college and you graduate, and then you go into an agency and you're doing the boring stuff. You're writing press releases, you're sitting behind a computer. You're not really connecting with the people. But over the years, PR has evolved, and being able to work with people, I enjoy this. It was a chance for me to take the skills that I have and turn it into a career. And so that's how it's evolved. It's expanded, and it's been a whirlwind, but I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest part of it? Because you got a family, right?
No, just me.
Just you?
Just
All
me. Right. I feel like I have a million kids because coaching sports for 9 years. Mm-hmm. I played basketball last Wednesday with a kid who's in college now, but I coached him when he was in the 7th grade, and when he's 6'8" and giant, but when he sees me, it's like a little kid again. Coach. And so I felt like I have kids that have on Father's Day have reached out to me, say Happy Father's Day. But for me, the hardest thing has just been learning to pivot. Something goes wrong, learning to accept it, adjust, and move on to the next thing, and just adapting to the different scenarios and just the different people. I started where we worked for brands and PR at an agency. Then I moved and worked for one product, and then a person, and then someone in real estate, and now I work at an agency where we have clients from all sorts of fields. So you're always adjusting to the clientele and the person and what they're doing. And also not burning out. I did PR for someone in real estate for 2 years, and you get tired of the same real estate conversations. Half the people, if you go to an event, I can recite the speech they're going to give on stage word for word. And so it's the mundane, everyday routine that you just have to catch yourself from not burning out and learning, how can I pivot? How can I adjust? What can I do differently?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, a lot of times that mundane is part of, I guess, the process of growth.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
How is it that, because when you go through the mundane, there's, you're doing the daily task every single day. How did you, like you said, you pivoted. How do you pivot outside of, because the mundane kind of is growth, but how do you pivot enough to be able to say, okay, I know that this is growing me, but I need to make that slight pivot to hit the next level or hit the next gear?
Yeah. I think when you're stuck on the same course, you're comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and being in that state where this doesn't feel right, but it's pushing me out of my comfort zone. It's forcing me to learn new things and to adapt on the fly. And so that's just the biggest thing, is learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think it took you to learn that?
Weeks, months, years. I'm still learning. I'm still learning it right now. And so it's just the level to which I'm learning it. And there's so many different areas of life. It's like, okay, I learned it in this part of life. Now, the past year, I've done a lot of work on myself. And so it's like, okay, let me work on my relationship with myself, my relationship with God, my relationship with other people, my relationship with work, and not burning myself out. And so it's just a constant learning period.
I was gonna say so before with this, you told us there was a point where you were only sleeping like 1 or 2 hours a day. And that's not healthy for really anybody, let's be real. So where are you at sleep-wise now, and then what did you do to adjust to get there? Because that can be tough for people.
Yeah,
I mean, with somebody that's a mind that's constantly
It sounds like
going.
a large pivot to be able to
that's a large pivot because it's a lot of time.
I think one is creating, what is it? The modes on your phone, where it's like you can't get phone calls, notifications in, learning to be able to do that. I used to sleep with my phone like on my chest, not having my phone, having it away from me on my bed, on my nightstand, away. Forcing myself into a routine where it's like, okay, now it's time to go to bed, lay down. And then if I can't sleep, what's music that can help focus my mind and tune out work? But also giving myself grace where, hey, I might sleep 5 hours this night. The next day, if I only get an hour of sleep, I'm not going to be too hard on myself because I'm still making the progress that I need.
I don't know how you do it.
Let's take it back a little bit. Have you always been this way, like, or that way before you? Because were you like go 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 go? Like
I've always been go go go. I'm a type of person who needs routine. I'm a type of person who needs, I guess, order. And so for me, I'm always putting myself into environments where I can control what I'm going to experience, what I'm going to go through. I would look at it the way of, I was talking to a buddy a year ago and I said, I'm really frustrated because I never get invited to anything. I always have to do the organizing. And he shifted my mind and he's like, well, if you're organizing everything, A, you're not going to miss out on anything. And B, you're in control of everything that you're doing. And so that was a conversation that helped me to look at it a different way. And so it's like, hey, if I'm setting up a pickup basketball game, I control where it's at. I don't have to drive far. I can control who comes. Hey, these are my friends that are going to be here. And so it's just structuring it. This sounds kind of selfish, but structuring it a way that I know that I can win.
Interesting.
No, I mean, that leads me to think that there was a long period of time where you felt alone because you were inviting everybody to things. But that was kind of key. You switched my mindset just there, thinking, because I felt that for a really long time, long time, always feeling alone. But maybe it's because of the same thing. I wanted to be in control of what was going on and being able to invite people, say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where we're going to go. That's huge. Yeah. That's a big mindset.
You get the food that you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's
like everything.
The people that you want there.
Yeah. I'm going to an event where I don't like the people or the food. Why are you going?
Yeah.
Put something on yourself, invite other people. I mean, it's the same concept. If you look at people when they run their events, they're always worried about, well, there's another event the same day. I'm like, you could have 500 people at your event and down the road have another 500 people. There is no shortage to people in this world. It's just, what is your message to pull those people in?
That's pretty huge. So I want to go back. I was listening to your Life of Jeffrey that you'd put out, and you'd said something, and he actually brought it up, but I'm going to bring it up for him. You said you wanted to help 1 billion people.
Yeah.
But you said it in high school.
Yeah.
How did you get in that mindset in high school? I mean, we're all about the same age here. We're all real close to the same age.
Yeah.
High school, I was not thinking about anything like that. How did you come to that?
It was a crazy goal that I didn't know. Social media wasn't the way it was. I mean, I left on LDS mission and came back, and suddenly they had Instagram and Snapchat, and I was just used to Facebook and then MySpace before that.
Oh, MySpace.
I'm sure you guys remember MySpace. Oh, yeah. You could put the background and the music and everything.
We're editors. We were like
exactly
HTML creators.
100%.
That's how I met my wife. That's how long
MySpace?
I've been with her. Yep.
Drawed her in with the
I love it.
with the cool setup of this.
Listen to the song that plays when you go to my profile.
Exactly. But what led you to that? I mean, what?
I went through certain circumstances in my life up to that. So going into middle school, I'd always suffered a severe anger problem. And so when I was in the 8th grade, I went to a wilderness therapy camp called Red Cliff Ascent. And for me, I was 14 at the time. Everyone that was there was 18 and above, 21, coming off drugs, relapsing, whatever it was. And I was just this kid. And if anyone's heard of these camps, you get food every 2 weeks. If you run out, you run out. Dang. You can live off the land, you can hunt, you can find it. But also they have you do a bow drill fire. So there's no matches, no lighters. If you don't make fire, you're not cooking.
Wow.
And so I had a period of time where, I'm 14, you're a stubborn kid. I wasn't making fire, so I was eating raw meat. I was drinking, water from cow troughs where cows were. Went through that experience. My dad was called as the LDS mission president, so went straight from that. We moved to South Africa for 3 years and went into a different environment. I went from dealing with that, going to South Africa, and now I'm an African American in a black country who can't speak the language at the time, who doesn't understand the culture. So I look like everybody, but I don't fit in with everybody. I moved back to Idaho and go to a small farm town. It's the school where my dad went, where he grew up. First black kid in school history, only black kid in the school, which led to, 1 year people came in KK robes to the school. 1 year they drew me hanging from trees in my textbooks. And so through all those experiences, just something in my mind clicked and was like, okay, I want to impact 1 billion lives so that people, necessarily kids, don't have to go through what I went through. And so I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I started getting into coaching and coached every sport possible. I stepped into that adoption camp and started working with those families and those kids. And then social media came along and I started a podcast and I was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand, here's how you're reaching these people. I've run a pickup basketball group, as we were talking, for 10 years. And, I know when it's people's birthdays or they get married or they have a kid. And it was just, it's such a great outlet for people. And I started to see all these little things. I'm like, okay, here's how you're doing it. Still, I'm far, far away from the goal. It's a crazy goal, but it's one where how I live my life, how I do my job, everything can affect that goal.
Wow. That's deep.
So did all that stuff when you moved back to Idaho, did it put you into like a depression?
It did the opposite. It's why I started working out so much, because I told myself, if I turn my body into a weapon, people won't approach me the same way. And so it really had me put my head down and start committing myself, getting into better shape. It started to help me coach more with a passion and devote myself to kids that I've never met these kids before. I'm not related to them. I'm not even from their community. But I would go to, it's funny, the kid who's in college now playing basketball, his little brother came and he's going into high school next year, but he was telling me I went to his baptism when he was 8. I mean, it was just these little things that inspired me to start stepping into these other fields of life. So I think it actually did the opposite.
That's crazy
enough.
No, that says a lot about your mindset, honestly. Because, thinking about me at that age, that would have, off the deep end, made me really feel upset. So that's crazy that you took that and you're like, no, I'm going to show them.
Well, and it's helped when I go back to visit because I did not fight. It changed, people's perceptions. And then it's also helped me prepared me for, being a black guy in Utah County in Utah, you stick out like a sore thumb and you experience certain things, but those high school experiences prepared me to live in the state.
That's crazy. So did you graduate here in the States or did you graduate in Africa?
So came back, finished high school in the States.
Okay.
Graduated here, moved down to Utah to come play rugby. Went to UVU. I thought about going to BYU, did a visit, and I was like, it's not for me.
UVU is pretty nice.
Yeah, I loved UVU. And so, I've just been here since, and got a house at the end of last year in American Fork and kind of settled as my base so I can go out. And last week I was in Miami and then New Orleans, and so I can go out and travel and work and have fun and then come back and just be at home.
Wow. Because you said you moved to Africa, you came back, and it sounds like you at some point went back as well. How did you make sense of because you talked about belonging, you didn't have you moved to Africa, you felt, you said you looked the part, but you didn't feel accepted, I guess you could say. It's like you fit in. How did you make sense of where does Jeff fit in?
I it was a learning curve. It was hard at first. In South Africa, I hung out with more of the white kids than I did the black kids. When I was in West Africa, in Ghana, one of the things that really helped me was studying in the Bible. When it talks about Paul, he said, "To the weak I became weak. To the Jews I became a Jew." When he preached in a city, he referred to the poets from that city to reach the people. And so I had to understand that if I'm going to reach these people, I need to be more like them rather than trying to pull them to be more like me. So just immersing myself into the culture. And in doing so, it really helped, I think, me being able to thrive in that environment and be more comfortable.
So did you learn the language then?
So at one point, I could probably keep up in about 6 African languages, and I don't speak them at all now. I'll see a few people from Ghana so I can pick it up here and there, but there was a point if I went to Africa, I could switch and you would never know I was American.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So going back to, like you said, you moved around, you did a lot of different things. Sounds like, you went through some pretty bad stuff, out in, it sounds like Idaho. So what about, obviously that's a pretty impactful situation. What about your upbringing? Do you think that helped give you an edge in what you're doing today? And what set you back as well?
I think my parents did a good job of trying to immerse us into the black culture. Mm-hmm. My dad was a really good businessman, and so he has inspired a lot of what I do today. And it's, fun for me. My dad used to take his dad on a bunch of work trips. And so the past 2 years, a lot of my work trips, my dad came with me and traveled with me to share that experience. And he's become my sounding board. So I think my upbringing helped a lot. Also being able to travel to so many different places and meet different people, it's prepared me to network with all sorts of people from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. I don't think without my upbringing I could step into the career I am today and work as the way that I do without going through every experience that I had up to this day. And it's interesting. I think everything has happened for a reason, and I've met different people at the right time. And so, for me, it's like, if I didn't move to South Africa, I wouldn't have learned to play rugby. If I didn't play rugby, I would have never come to Utah to play rugby, and I wouldn't have met that professor that told me to go into PR. And so it's like, when you look back, it's like, okay, that had to happen so I could reach here and reach here and reach here, and just that domino effect.
Did you ever resent your parents for moving you around so much?
It's funny that you say that, because when someone's called as a LDS mission president, you get all the different cities. And so we were looking at like Hawaii, and then we're like, where are NFL teams and stuff? And so we never thought we'd go back to Africa. And so that was a hard first few months. We had just finished middle school, and they were building a brand new high school. So moving away from your friends, you're going to a school where you're now in uniforms. It's an all-boys school. It's a lot. I tell people it's a lot like Harry Potter. You get put into a house. You have the prefix that you have to call them sir. You can only walk certain places. They can walk on the grass. You can't walk on staircases. And so that first little bit was tough. And one of the couple missionaries, sat my brother down and just kind of talked to us and to calm us down, because we were rebelling. I mean, I got my ears pierced and going to parties, and it was a complete opposite of what we should be doing. But it was like, okay, we're going to rebel because you've put us in this environment. And, going to Idaho to Africa is not an easy change.
No, those are two completely different. I've never been to Africa, and I probably haven't been to where you've been in Idaho, but I've been to some places. Those are two completely different cultures.
Night and day different. But I'm grateful that I had the chance to experience those places. We one of the fun things with my dad is we've gone to see as many wonders of the world as we can, and we've done the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu. Right before the pandemic, I took him to India to see the Taj Mahal, and living in Africa as long as we did, going to India nothing shocked me. The smell, the sights, a lot of the tourists want to ride elephants. I'm like, been there, done that, seen that, and so one of the things we did is, instead of going to all the tourist locations where you can shop and have fancy food, we asked our driver, we said, just take us to one of the villages. Just drive us out there. we just want to be amongst the people and just see them. And so it certainly has helped give a different perspective of life.
That's cool.
I was going to say, you probably look at what you have and are way more grateful than anybody else because you've been places that
have nothing.
People don't come to here and get to experience all that because of what they don't have or have.
And I will say the crazy thing is they have so much less than us, but they're happier.
They are.
Way happier than, I mean, you know, coaching kids. I saw a kid, he didn't get the newest iPhone and had a fit on his parents. And I'm like, little do you know you have electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's little things that we take for granted. You know, people, first world problems, what people call them. And so just having that perspective shift helps a ton.
When you were in Africa, did you go to a lot of those areas?
Or
did you live in one of those areas?
So we always lived in, outside of my LDS mission, it was always a gated community that we lived in. But we drove out to the other areas. You saw it. You drove through them. On my mission, we were more out in the villages. So getting water from a well, not having electricity all the time. That's where I experienced more of this is what living in Africa is like, being on a bike for 2 years. And you know the crazy thing is you could be out and you could see monkeys or whatever animals, drive 2 hours and be at an Apple store.
Wow.
And so there's such a strange and different vibe to being in Africa because they have the well-developed parts, but then they also have the parts that like you see on National Geographic.
I was going to say everything that you really hear about Africa is that area, not the developed Apple store, all that stuff. So it's
my middle school yearbook. That last day where everyone signs, everyone was like, have fun in Africa, don't get AIDS. That was like the number one comment in the yearbook. Because, you know, when you think about it, that's all you're thinking about. Is the things that you hear on the news or you see on Discovery Channel and not understanding, you know, that this is Africa. And the funny thing is, first time when we flew into Africa, we're flying into the city and we see like giraffes, elephants. And you're like, that's not meant to be in the city. But it just so happened that the circus was there in town. And so downtown you happen to have the elephants and the different animals. But yeah, they're well-developed cities.
Huh. Dang, that's crazy.
I want to touch on something because you talked about your dad. I grew up without a dad, so I like to always pick guys that grew up with a good example of a father, which it sounds like you have a great example of a father. How crucial was your dad in your life, and what's one thing or something things that you take from him that you're like, I apply this to today? Like, how impactful was that in your life?
My parents are hard on themselves for sending me to that wilderness therapy camp.
Okay.
But, you know, one of the things my dad told me, he said, I was just scared you would end up in prison or end up dead. Like they were at that point of, this is the only thing that we could think of that give you the help. And so they poured in time, energy, money to give me the help because it's what they thought was best for me at that time. But also I think, you know, one of the things that was, when we first moved to Africa, my dad did humanitarian work. And so it taught me that, hey, he made all this money, but then he took it and he went over to try to help other people rather than spend it and going on luxury, you know, trips and sports cars and nice houses. He was out there trying to help people in Africa. And so taking his whole family and thrusting us into that, it was a lesson learned on, you know, there's two paths that we can take when we're successful in life. We can pour into other people, or we can just try and take. And from his lesson and learning in my career, the more that you give, the more energy that you get. The less that you try and take, the more successful you'll be.
That's something I've heard a lot over the years. The more I listen to people that are more successful, like once you start caring more about the person, the money comes.
Yeah.
And that's just the way life is, honestly.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that was a mindset shift too. I mean, just take care of the people. I mean, even this, you being here, we're just out here talking to people, and you took your time to come here to give us your lessons.
Of course. I'm here to learn from you too.
I think I'm learning more.
Yeah. Well, you've been in some big rooms. We're talking off camera. You know, you've been around some successful people and people that we consider influencers or people that are predominant in the influencing space. And you said something very impactful about, you know, you just wanted to be a fly on the wall. Have you ever felt like that you didn't belong in those rooms, and you were just like, if you did, how did you overcome that?
You run into imposter syndrome, And it's like, hey, how am I here? I remember I was a few years ago, I was at Tim Tebow's charity gala, and we go to breakfast, and Tim is over there getting an omelet, and I'm sitting at a table. Vince Carter's here, Mike Singletary's here, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. And, I talked to Mike Singletary. I'm like, hey, coach, and when you realize you just have a conversation with them, you're like, they've been really successful in their careers, but they're still people. These are guys like you and me. And so when you can go in there and you can just, how do I add value to that room? You can ask a question on, what are you most excited for, or give them a chance to impart wisdom on you. It changes the energy in the room. And it's what we talked about earlier, is as long as you don't try and be a fan when you want to, of course you do, you become a friend, just have a conversation. It sits so much better with them. And you realize that they have struggles too. They have highs, they have lows. They're no different than us. They just happen to, be successful in what they chose to do.
That's awesome. That's something cool that, I can only imagine being in rooms like that, and the way that you present the way the mindset that you walked into it with is, it's exactly what you talked about before. It's you're going to give more than what you're going to take. Yeah. So you're there to give value and soak up, I would say game from them as well, but you're there to be like, yeah, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And then in turn, God or the universe, whatever, rewards you for that in whatever way it can be, what do they say? You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And, if you're sowing, good seeds, you'll reap a good harvest.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll be honest, I'll confess, it wasn't always like that for me. I always had, that initial mindset of, I'm going into a room, here's my business card, here's what I do for work. Let's connect. What work can I do with you? And shifting from that to just conversations. I've gotten way more business done than I ever would have imagined by not going into every relationship trying to be transactional. And I've had relationships formed at these events where we're just really good friends and we check in with each other here and there, and no business has come from it, but it's better. And I think for me, it's more beautiful that way.
It leads them to say, hey, that person might have somebody, but one of their friends might not. Be like, hey, this guy's been awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't worked with him specifically, but he's just been an awesome friend over the years. Why don't you check him out? He might be perfect for you.
Yeah.
You're just leaving yourself room to be there for whoever needs to help that billion people to get to that goal that you want to get to.
No, I agree.
So what, I keep going back to this like wilderness camp. So what kind of mindset were you in before you went there? Like what were you doing that caused your parents to be like, I think he needs to go to this harsh of a camp?
It's anger, physical violence, trying to swing a chair at a Sunday school teacher. My mom had some high issues. And so there was one time I threw an apple at her and it was as close to her face. And so just alarming signs like that. And then just the fear of, I went through puberty, probably third grade, super young. So I had facial hair. And so you have this large black guy living in Idaho. So anything I do is amplified.
Yeah.
And so there was just, I think, a fear there from my parents of, we can't control you. We don't know what to do. This is an option. Let's try it. I remember I was at a family reunion and I was throwing sand at people. So my dad threw me off the dock. I get back on the dock. We go up to the cabin. The police come knocking because all another family saw was this black kid being thrown in the water, not knowing that, these are my parents. And so it's just, there was such a bigger magnifying glass that things could get out of control quickly.
Did you guys deal a lot with that? Like this, like subtle, like racial kind of barrier where it's like people would see certain things like, oh, there's like something weird going on over there. Or did you guys deal with a lot of that? I'm sure your parents would have more insight on that.
And that's the interesting thing is my parents have pointed out things like as kids going to like department stores, like the security person watching us, making sure we're not taking anything, not knowing those are our parents with us in the store. Or, my brother he got a Mustang in high school, and driving back, we had a cop tail us the whole way till we pulled the neighborhood, and my dad came out and the cop ended up leaving. But, from what they saw, you see it a lot more. My dad tells a story. Me and my brother, I have a younger brother who's also adopted. He's from Atlanta. I'm from Maryland. We're born 3 hours apart. He lives with me. And so it's like growing up with a twin. But my dad said it was interesting flying back with a black baby because he was an older white guy. And so he said, you know, to the white people, it looked like, hey, did his daughter get pregnant with someone? He's bringing the baby back. And he said all the black people in the airport would come up and talk and have conversations, and the baby's so cute. So, you know, back then there obviously was a lot of perception, a lot of, you know, people looking at it differently in society.
Wow. Your parents sound super strong to go through that. I mean, that's a lot of, I mean, as a Hispanic male, I mean, coming here too, I mean, it's pretty weird, you know, you kind of get these looks or whatever. And then the way I used to appearance wise, you know, I wasn't the most approachable guy, I guess you could say.
What made you choose Saratoga Springs?
Out here?
Yeah.
It was a new house.
Yeah. Just to get away. I mean, honestly, I've always wanted to move away.
Okay.
From kind of West Jordan, West Valley area. But, yeah, it's just kind of was the new build stuff. And so I came out here, but
as long as there's no disasters out here, you guys will be fine. Because it's like one road of traffic.
I know, man. We're stuck, dude.
I know.
Yeah, I got to get a big
Unless
truck.
you go across the lake.
That's cool, man. I mean, that's a heck of a story. And I think when it comes to, you know, kind of your, you know, the camp and all that type of stuff, you sounds like there was some anger there. Did you ever find out like where this violence or anger was coming from, or is it something that
the past years I've worked on myself, one of the things I realized, and it shifted my mind, was that my anger was a positive, not a negative. Our society tells us anger is bad, being angry isn't good. And I'm like, it's great because it tells me what's triggering me. And so being able to look at, okay, wait, why am I getting angry? And understanding, okay, this is what triggered me. Let me remove myself from this situation or this instance or this person. And so it's really helped me to looking at it as a positive, and understanding has helped me to place myself into places where I don't get as angry, or I know, here's how to deal with this, and it doesn't pop up. Whereas before it was such a negative that I never addressed the root cause of the anger and never got to it. And so just shifting that has been huge for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think one thing that I've implemented in my family and with my daughter, and, you know, every emotion is accepted. So anger, sadness, but every action isn't.
Yeah.
So, right, you can be upset, you can be sad, you can be mad, but it's what you do with that. Whether you feel those emotions or are you going to act out on them. And, you know, if I'm angry, am I going to, you know, go up to some guy and punch him in the face? No, you have to say with those emotions, you deal with them, and then you say, yeah, maybe I'm not going to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't come around this association. Maybe I won't put myself in those predicaments. So I agree with that. I think it's a very sensible thing. I think it's easy in society today to put, you know, those emotions or any emotion in a certain category, right? If you're depressed, it's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, it's such a bad thing. Like, just be happy. I know that because I've said that to my wife.
Yeah.
Hey, come on. And I think I've told them, I'm like, depressed? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, just change your mindset. Be happy, cool, whatever. After I've done my own digging into, like, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
You have to feel those emotions. You have to feel that anger. You have to feel that sadness. And it's okay to be there. There's nothing, you know, inherently wrong about that. It's just today we want to, you know, just put these things in buckets and be like, that's bad. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that you say that. That's really cool. I'm glad that you came to that realization because it's important.
I mean, all the emotions teach you something.
Yeah.
It's whether you're willing to listen to the message or not.
Exactly.
At least the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to listen to what's going on or take the time, like you said, and use it for a positive, okay, I don't need to be in that situation. I don't need to deal with that. I don't need to talk to that person. It can be a very positive thing in the end.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention and listen to the lesson. But once you do, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
It's taken me a long time to learn that. And I'm still learning it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
So I want to pivot here real quick.
Okay.
I love that word though. Pivot. I don't know why. Yeah. But anyways, you talked about fitness. Obviously, you're a fitness guy. You're in shape. What has fitness taught you that PR hasn't taught you? Like, what do you take from fitness that you're like, you know, PR can't teach you this?
Oh, that's a really good one. I think it's honestly, it's crazy enough. It was the first thing in my life that told me, talk to everybody. I am the type of person that could judge easily and, hey, why am I talking to this person? But the gym has allowed me to meet people that have blessed and changed every other aspect of my life. And so it also shows me that we all can excel in other levels of life. There's a kid who I may meet at the gym who in the work field may not outwork me, but we get into the gym, they can kick my butt. It's a place where it can easily humble you, and you make one false step, you could injure yourself. Yeah. And so it's a place where you also have to think and use your brain, because, you know, when I work, I can just get in the flow of things and it's just natural. We have things like AI that can come in and help us. At the gym, there's no shortcuts. Yeah. And, you know, you have these kids, they can go ahead and take steroids, but you'll pay the price at some point in your life. And so it's the one place where the actual work actually matters.
I love that.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. So we talk about self-care. Now I'm relating this to fitness, because that's a great answer, by the way. I mean, that's, you can't shortcut the gym. Yeah. There's no way. There's maybe, like you said, these enhancers, right? But ultimately, you still got to show up. You still got to put in the work. You got to put in the reps. You got to put in the time. We talk about self-care a lot for men. Would you consider fitness for you something? And I know I've heard you say this before, not gym related, but just caring about yourself, taking care of yourself first. Jeff takes care of himself first before he can take care of others, because that's how you add value to them. Is self-care something that you implement? And is it in fitness, or is there something else that you do to take care of Jeff's needs and make sure that he's good?
I think it's multiple things. I think it's, you know, I go to the barber shop, get a haircut. I'm like, cause just that, you look fresh. Oh man.
We talked about that right before you got here.
It changes the whole demeanor, the whole way you feel. So just that alone, I consider self-care. Working out, whether it's, you know, it's not so much, even if you don't lift weights, you just go sit in the sauna or ride the bike. You did something active. You got out of the house, you moved. I work remote, and so it's nice to be able to get away from home. I think the other thing is I have a spiritual coach that I work with. Just being able to go and see her and get regulated and just get back on track. And I think the other thing of self-care is, I talk about this a lot, but basketball is my third space. So it's not my home space, it's not my workspace, but it's my third space where I can just go have fun with friends. I can just go have an outlet, and not have to worry about work or bills or anything. And I have this time period where I'm just focused on that, and then I come back to real life. And so I think for those are my biggest areas of self-care.
I love that. It's oddly enough, and I've never met anybody that said this, so that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. And you can ask my wife. I'm not, just leading you on. There's two things that I do for self-care for myself that I absolutely love. One, I love going for walks. And we've talked about this, me and my wife, or myself, I'll just go out for a walk. The number one thing that I can always go back to, and I don't know why, I think it's something to do with my childhood. I remember when my dad passed away, there used to be this pot in the front of our house, this big, huge, like potting thing, and I would shoot my basketball in there. We were poor, right? And couldn't go down the street to go find a basketball court, so that's what I did. To this day, one of the biggest boundaries and things that I've ever told my wife was like, sometimes I just need to leave and just go play basketball. Yeah. She's like, what? She's like, by yourself? I'm like, yeah, I love being out there just shooting the ball. I've always, I'm sure you've done it. 3, 2, 1. Oh, he wins, but something about that. And to this day, I have a basketball in my garage, and they put a court up here, and I'm like, it's perfect. Yeah. Something about finding those self-care things, whether it be basketball, the spiritual coaching, whatever it is, just brings you a whole nother level of life that you're like, I'm actually caring for myself. Yeah. Like, I love myself. And one of the awesome things that I heard, honestly, was it this week or last week? We've always had problems with boundaries. I never grew up with boundaries. It's not something that I can say I came up with. I heard somebody tell me, boundaries isn't for the other person. Boundaries are saying that you love yourself. And to me, playing basketball was a boundary. Like, I need to do that for myself. Yeah. So it's really cool to hear that you do that. And I could see it when you talk about basketball. Like, I could feel that you're saying the same thing I am. Is like, I don't know, something about being with your boys, or just hanging out and just shooting a ball, just having a good time. Just like re-energizes you. Yeah. Like, it just gives you that life back. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's go hit the day.
Exactly.
That's super cool, man. I love that about you. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So I want to go, what do you do spiritually? Like, you're a spiritual coach. Like, what do you guys, what's your go to when you go see her? And everything?
It depends. It depends on the mood. Like she does body work also, so like scraping and stuff. And so I work was getting crazy, it was super stressful, and so I text. I say, hey, I need to come get some work done on my legs. But it's like in the process of whatever much pain that is, just a conversation. Yeah. Someone that can hear me out.
What is scraping, by the way?
Take the metal. You're working on the muscle.
Really?
Yeah. So scrape the entire leg.
Oh man.
So it's.
Is it painful? Okay,
because
it sounds painful.
You can feel the knots being worked on.
Wow. Okay.
And so just being able to do that. She does the thing with the sage to set the mood in the room and everything. And it's interesting because I've met people and I've been in groups where a lot of guys turn to the plant medicine and the different things and the journeys and whatever it is they're doing for their outlet and stuff. And so I'm like, that can work for some people. But for me, I have these different spiritual outlets that I do, whether it's going to see her, whether it's going to church, whether it's praying, no matter what it is, I have different things that work for me. And it's just been my rhythm.
I was just curious. Does she do like the breath work with you?
We've done breath work. We've done like the card reading.
Okay.
And, it's interesting. The card she pulled, I think it was ego. And it was interesting. I heard a guy talking. He said, ego stands for edging God out. Mm. And in talking about it, he was basically talking about I'm telling the world that I'm so powerful, I don't need anybody's help, not even God's. And so for me, it was like, okay, wait, Jeff, what do I need to humble myself in life? Why am I being so prideful trying to do this on my own when there's people out there that are trying to help me? And, sometimes, and it's hard as a man, to be vulnerable, to show emotion and say, hey, I need help. I have some close friends, and I remember a few months ago, there was a night, my buddy up in Farmington, he sent me a text and said, hey, we had a buddy who was dealing with suicide and said, I haven't gotten hold of him for a few days. And we called another buddy out of Vegas, said, I haven't got through to him either. So I sent a text, phone call, nothing. And he's like, hey, I'm going to drive 2 hours up here and just check on him. I said, well, I live 8 minutes. Let me go over to his house. And so drove over to his house and, looked around, tried the front door, and it was unlocked. And so the times I've been there, I was like, knowing him, it's never unlocked. Unless he's sitting there waiting, expecting people. And so looked, and his cars were home. I called a buddy and I said, hey, come help me. I don't want to do this by myself. And we end up calling the cops and we say, hey, could you do a welfare check? And the cops said they shined their light, they yelled everything, but it wasn't that time frame where they could enter. But the officer's like, but you could go in. And I'm like, great. So we went up and you go first. No, you go first. So we end up going. We go into his room and he's laying there and we say his name and he picks his head up, puts it back down. And so we tell the cops he's there, he's sleeping. We found out later that he had taken about 100 pills a few hours earlier. And so he reached out to me and said, hey, you should come remove my firearms. So I went and picked that up. But it was finding that friend groups where one of the guys in the group had a prompting. And it was late at night. And I didn't have to answer his phone call, but I knew he's calling for a reason. So by me answering that, it was just a domino effect. But it's, the circle of people that I've surrounded myself and created where, if one person senses something, one of us is willing to jump in and help.
I'm sure that guy's very grateful that you went over there that night, though.
Yeah.
How do you continue to show up for a friend like that?
I actually put him on a thread with a buddy I know who's a therapist because I said, as your friend, I could help you. I can show up for you. But this is not something I know how to deal with or what to do, but here's an expert that can help you. And so one of the things is I know he loves Diet Mountain Dew. So it'd be like picking up a Diet Mountain Dew and just dropping it off at his house a random time, or a text or a phone call, or just constantly checking in. And it's interesting to me because my basketball group that I run, there's a lot of guys in it that are suicidal and it's their one outlet. And so for me, it's hard because I could be super tired and don't want to go, but I know, hey, this person needs to get moving and have an outlet in different things. And so it's what I've seen as I've become more vulnerable myself and open on social media and my life, more of my friends are opening up to me. And I'm like, there's a lot of people you would never know that are struggling behind the scenes. And it just takes them seeing someone else being vulnerable, them being able to open up, and then we can help them. But, for my whole life, I put on this front. Everyone's had their walls up.
For sure.
And as I've let mine down, they've done the same. And I've been able to show up for friends time and time again and seen them show up for me when I needed it.
No, I've seen that a lot. The more open I've been with people, they've been more and more open with me, and the more we've talked and gotten deeper. And I can see how that group has probably saved multiple people over the years.
Yeah.
Because they might be feeling down, and then that text comes through. All right, game's on tonight. Who's coming? And they're like, maybe even look at their wife, and their wife's like, you better go.
Yeah.
If you're still here, we're gonna have a problem. Go.
Yeah.
You need this.
Exactly. And, and it's whether it's waking up early to go pick somebody up or just making sure they're there. It's taxing at time, but it's needed because someone needs to step up and be able to help. And, I had one of my friends, he was dating this girl, and it's funny. So because of fitness, I'm not super flexible. So I can't reach my shoulders to the back of my head. So I called, for some reason I was like, go call her because I needed her to tie my braids up in a bun for me. And so I went there and went to her place, and she was just crying. And something, she told me that her and her boyfriend had just broken up the night before. But it was something I knew I needed to reach out. I didn't know the exact reason why. I was like, well, I get my braids done and stuff. But you start to get these little promptings where you start to see people's energy, and you're like, something's off. And it's like, okay, just send a text message. And they may not want to open up at that time, but I've told people all the time, let me just sit in a room with you, even if no one talks. Just the energy of someone being there for you will make them feel comfortable.
I can see that. There's times I could have used it. I mean,
yeah,
I'll be real. There's times that I could have used something like that. I mean, there's times that just coming to sit with him has been my getaway, just sitting here talking, and I forget about everything for a little while.
Yeah.
I can definitely feel that.
Yeah, we'll exchange texts sometimes, and that's helped some days where, like you said, you just sometimes you get a little nudge from God or whatever, the universe, and you just get like, hey, you should maybe send, I don't know why. And he sent me a text, and I'm like, dang, I was just thinking about him, and he'll be like, hey man, I'm proud of you, keep going or whatever. And I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm on the right path. And
this past month has been interesting because I had joined a men's coaching group, and it was a year program. You renew, and then you don't need to. And I got some really good things, but also, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, is when you get a group together, you start to get the cliques, you start to get these little culty vibes and stuff. So for me, I pulled myself away, and it was interesting. When you leave a group like that, it's not the smoothest transition because it's like you're abandoning them. And so I had joined the year before, and going through what I was going through, I reached out to my 2 childhood best friends, and they're like, hey, let's do a trip to New Orleans. And so one of them lives there, and so we flew out, we met there in New Orleans, and a year to the day that I decided to join this group, I was in the same place in New Orleans that I was after leaving. And just being able to have them as sounding boards and them being able to be honest and have, here's what you need, here's this, you shouldn't have to pay to join the group to make friends. You put the energy into the world, those that are meant to be your friends and connect with you will. And those who won't. And that's fine. You don't need everybody to like you, everyone to be your friend. And so I have been blessed to have friends in my life, and, we've known each other 20 plus years. It's not like we talk every day or see each other every month, but in that time, we always seem to find a trip and we get together at the right time where all 3 of us need it. And then we go back to our regular lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's crazy, weird how that works sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super cool. One thing that I want to hit on is because we talk a lot about failure here. We've talked about it a million times. You talked about well, I think it was one of your biggest fears being failing yourself.
Yes.
What does that look like to you?
I think it changes monthly, weekly. My dad is publishing his first book next month, and
Congratulations for your dad, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a process. He was just up here, and we recorded his audiobook, and it's for me. I've taken on the whole project, and usually you're hiring a team to do this, but I'm like, well, let me take this on. So there's a fear there of, will this be a success, and how much is it on my shoulders if it's not? It's the fear of, hey, I missed a day at the gym. I personally may not be, but I feel totally out of shape. It's the fear of, hey, I had a news story run on a client that was not favorable. That client's angry. How do I manage that? So there's a constant looking at different areas where I could fail in this but succeed in that. I could fail here, succeed somewhere else. And so for me, I look at greatness as a lot of small things done well. And I think failure for me, it's not a big, large thing like I just failed at life. It's I fail at certain things. And if I do fail, what is either my pivot or what is my lesson to learn from it?
I'm glad you said that. We've talked about that a lot, that failure, there's a lesson. And like you said, you either pivot to something new, you don't give up, you don't quit, you pivot, or you figure out why and you take that lesson. And again, you end up pivoting anyways.
Exactly.
So I like that.
One thing I just on that pivot part, and I think somebody can get value from this because I think it's important. I think you're going to give the best answer. What is it? How do you know when to, I don't want to say quit, but when to pivot and when to keep going? Because I think sometimes people get stuck in that where it's like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And if somebody from the outside could be like, you're just banging your head against the wall, man. It's time to make that pivot. It sounds like you're very good at that. If somebody listening and said, I'm in this like grind.
Yeah.
How has Jeff looked at this say, okay, it's time for Jeff to pivot and do something?
So if I could challenge that on one thing, I think when we talk about pivoting, you're still going on.
Okay.
Like we can look at people say pivot, which means I'm stopping and going this direction. You're still moving forward. The thing is, what happens is when we fail or we fall short, the moment you pivot is the moment that you accept the failure or you accept the shortcomings. Because the biggest thing you need to do to pivot in life is you have to accept it. Now you can keep going and you can adjust to a different strategy. You can adjust to a different road, but it's that moment when you own it. As long as we're fighting it and we're like, oh, well, if I just a few more weeks and it might change. Or once we accept, we're able to keep going and then adjust the track that we're on.
That's a good answer. I like that.
I love that. That's really good. Yeah, that's perfect. Trying to think of what else.
If you don't mind, can I ask you guys a question?
Go for it. Yeah, of course.
I would love to know. I guess I would ask what is the greatest piece of advice that you've heard from one of your guests that you've had on this show?
Greatest advice.
And if I can go a little deeper on that, the greatest advice for yourself, not so much for your audience, but something that one of your guests said that it's like, oh, this resonates with me.
That's a tough one. You make me think.
I think, and this wasn't on camera, and I don't mean to jump in, but and I'm sure you'll connect with this because we've had conversations on this.
I might be thinking the same thing, honestly.
So Adam Nugent, it was our second guest that we ever had on the podcast. And we were talking, and we had a great interview, and it worked out really well. Great guy. After that, we just sat around like we will after this, and we just had a conversation. We try to bring, obviously it's a podcast, there's stuff to it, but really we're making connections, we're making friends. And we sat after the podcast, and he was like, hey, everything was cool. He's like, I just want to give you some feedback. Go deeper with some of your, really dig.
Yeah.
And, my wife was down here when we were having the conversation, and then she, he left or whatever, and it ruminated, and I ruminated on it. It sounds like he ruminated on it. And then my wife was like, yeah, like I agree, some of the, just go a little bit further, like dig into where the pain points are. That was probably one of the best advice, not only for the podcast, for me personally, because, I'm easy to make small talk, but because I have grown up in an environment where, you really don't share certain things.
Yeah.
You're a tough guy, da, da, da. The more you share, the more weaknesses you have, and it can be used against you. I've learned to drop that. And even in my relationship with my wife, it's like, ask another question. Find more about why is it that.
Yeah.
That's by far been the most impactful thing. And because, today social media, phones, it's so easy to, hey, how are you? How many times do people say that walking by? Hey, how are you? You're not really asking how anybody's doing. You're just being
going through the motions.
Courteous, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's having that moment of, where I've started now going out and I'll, stop somebody dead in their tracks. But hey, what's been the best part of your day so far?
Yeah.
What's been the best part of your week? And the responses that I get are it almost draws them stone faced. Like, what? Like, you're asking me a real question?
Yeah.
That's been the most impactful thing. It's changed my life to be able to really connect with somebody and say, really care about what's going on instead of just going through the motions.
I love that.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Honestly, that's why as soon as you started looking at me, I knew where he was going. So, because again, that's outside of that and inside of this. The guests after that, we went deeper on. And that's what's brought up some of the questions for you about, the camp and how you felt. And it just, that piece of advice made me want to go deeper with everybody. Okay, so what's next? What's this? What's that? It's just brought a lot more conversations that never would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to talk to somebody more in depth, like, okay, what caused this? Or even just be able to have that extra conversation, just to ask that one more question. That honestly was the biggest piece of advice.
I love that.
Yeah. We've had a lot of great guests, and, stories are impactful. We had Sadie on here, we had Candace, even Doug, our last guest. Every single one of them have shared stories that have changed my perception of how to view life. Myself, I was a very judgmental person. That's just unfortunately where I was in the immaturity of my growth back, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Judge somebody based on what they look like, based on what, whatever my own shortcomings were. This podcast has honestly helped me sit down with people and be like, listen to really, I'm easy to just start talking.
Yeah.
But it's a skill to sit here and listen to somebody and share their story, their vulnerabilities. And it shows me, how great we are as human beings to be able to just really connect with others and say, wow, your story's amazing. And wow, you've been through a lot. And sometimes just hearing that, we don't hear that enough, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's been a privilege and a true honor to sit with people and be like, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep going. We come from an environment, I've heard Shia LaBeouf say, like, we come from an environment where, very little cheerleading's happening. You don't have people in the corner, keep going, man, you got this. You'll get it when you've already reached a success, but by that time you don't need it.
Exactly.
I truly believe that, supporting our friends, every time he's progressing or any of my friends or any of our guests are doing something, like, keep going. You're doing great, because we didn't hear a lot of that. And I think it's crucial and important for people to hear that.
And I love what you just said, because it made me think of, I forget who was interviewing, but he said, we all have friends that when we're struggling, we can reach out to. Mm-hmm. But what we don't have is friends that we can reach out to celebrate something and not make it feel like we're bragging or rubbing it into their face. Who is the friend when you get a promotion, or who is the friend when you win something that you can reach out to that will celebrate with you?
This is my man right here. If there's somebody, I have one other friend that I'll talk to that he's the same thing. I've known him my whole life, and he's same thing. Good for you. I'm proud of you, buddy. But it's this guy. He's helped me through a lot over the last year alone. Last 6 months, it's been crazy. But he's been the guy I've called. Hey, I need some help with this, or hey, this is what's going on. It's all right. I got you. You got it. I'm proud of you. He was the first one to find out about my new job outside of my wife and everything, and he was my cheerleader the whole time. He was there for me.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
And he knows I'm there for him.
Yeah,
Same thing every time we talk. It's what's going on in your life now. So that's.
I appreciate that, man. No, you cool guy, man. You love you to death. So.
Love it.
Yeah. No, that's what about you, man? I want to put that question to you, because you've had some guests, you've had some people on you.
Yeah.
You've met a lot of people. Is there something that stands out that you've received that you're like, wow?
I think and this is not necessarily what a guest said, but it was the people that I've been able to meet and interview. It was just the process of, wait a second, this person is giving me 30 to 45 minutes to an hour of their time. Their attention is all on me. And it showed me that, these are guys that are way more successful than me, but yet they're willing to sit down and have a conversation and pour into me. And for me, it's translated to, wait, how am I not able to do that to other people? And just give them the time and pour into them. I mean, I have a buddy who's going through a challenging time with his parents, and he was up in Salt Lake working on his car. And I didn't have to drive up to Salt Lake. And I wasn't even helping him on his car, but I wanted to be there and show up for the kid at the time. And so I think just their actions have been the greatest lesson that I've taken away, is that they're able and willing to create time and pour into to me, even when they have the busiest schedule in the world. And it's hard because I've tried to interview guests from all walks of life, and I've even been going through and getting ready for my season 2 of my podcast and which guests I want to have and the reason I want to have. And a lot of my followers are the younger audience. And so I've really tried to connect with a lot of the younger entrepreneurs, influencers that are out there, because I know some kids who this could be them and they can relate to them. And so it's interesting, because I feel like every conversation, there's a lesson, there's a golden nugget, there's something I could take away. And I even, any conversation I have with somebody, no matter if I could be at the grocery store, I know this person is going to teach me something. I don't know what it may be at the time, but there's something that I can take away if I'm willing to not just listen, but to hear them.
Yeah, I love that.
I like it.
What's next for you, man? Well, let me start with, so do you have your own PR company? Is it somebody you work for?
So I run the PR branch for an agency out of LA called 1DS. I've done the whole thing where I've run a PR by myself, and I like having a team because you can bounce stuff off other people. And when you're just by yourself, it's hard because I have to make the decision, and the client will either win or lose based off what I want to do or what I think. But now I have people that I can go to, and they're like, try this, or hey, let's adapt this, or I don't know if that's a good idea. And it saved me time and time again being able to rely upon other people. Yeah. So for me, it's just to grow with this company and help take the company out. It's interesting. My company was the brains behind the creation of I'm not sure if you guys follow the Liver King.
Oh yeah.
And so the past week they dropped a documentary on the Liver King on Netflix, and it's basically a walking ad for our company. And so now, things are going crazy and people are reaching out and everything, but it's like, it's not sharing about the Liver King, it's sharing the ideas about creating a persona and being able to get your message and what you believe out to the world and on eyeballs and in ears. And so that's the next push for me is, okay, we have a great company, we have amazing clients already, but how do we take this to more people, and how do we, impact more lives? One of the things that I love about PR, but it's also taxing, is my job also can be to help rebuild reputations and cement people into society. And so with that, there's a lot of people that are relying on you. This is their lives. We have to protect them. We have to make sure that people know the truth about them. And so that's why, I look at, it's like being a lawyer is like, I can't choose a side. My job is to tell a message and to tell a story, and to allow the public to take that story and either like it and see him as a hero or see them as a villain. It's not my job to, pick. Yeah, it's just to put it out there and, get it on the news or get it on a magazine or get them on a podcast. And I tell a lot of my clients, like, I just need to get you in a room and you'll handle the rest. Like, once you're there, people will love you, have conversations, but it's my job to find the room to put them in with the right people.
I love that.
I like that you said teamwork. We had recorded one on teamwork, and that's something I love, that same idea. That's my favorite thing about working with the team, is being able to bounce ideas, or this is what I'm thinking, and get that feedback back. So I love that you said that, and that's a big part of it. And that probably could go back to your basketball. You got to work as a team in order to win.
Yeah, the funnest mornings I have is, and don't get me wrong, I always love to play with the best players on the court.
Of course.
I hate losing. I don't mind a stack team. But when I play with a bunch of kids who may not be the best, but everyone is working in unison,
you're more likely to win.
Yeah, and everyone's having fun.
Yeah.
And you're enjoying it, and it's, you could keep playing forever. It's when, the bickering or you start losing too much, and then it feels like you've been there forever and you just want to go home. And yeah, teamwork is crucial in every aspect of life.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate it. But at the end of every one, I ask, give the viewers a challenge. If you had to pick one thing, challenge them.
My challenge, I guess, for your viewers, your listeners would be...
Or for us.
And it can be for you guys as well, is there is probably a person that you've thought about. There's a person that you haven't seen for a while. There's a family member who you haven't talked to. My challenge would be is just shoot a text or make a phone call and just reach out. And it could be, hey, I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. But take, 30 seconds, even do an audio message. Take 30 seconds out of your day and reach out to somebody. I have on my phone an alarm in the morning that is just, I send 2 gratitude texts to people. I'll pick 2 people randomly and just to text them and say, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. I have an alarm for another buddy who's struggling, and I find a motivational quote or video or something. I send it to him every morning. But my challenge would be is just pick one person and it could be a family member. Hey, I just wanted to text you and say I love you. It doesn't matter what it is, or it doesn't have to be something long or elaborate, but just reach out.
That hits extra deep right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a little extra deep right now. So that was good. It was meant to be.
Thank you.
I appreciate
it. It popped in my head, and
I've learned to listen to the universe more, and I'll explain more after this, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your time and your energy.
Thank you guys for having me. What an amazing conversation.
I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Seriously. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
The Roundtable Podcast, where we talk about personal growth, struggles, and journey.